Welcome back to Next Level Pets, your home for everything related to living the best life you can with your pets and learning how to heal when they are no longer with us. If you've ever loved a pet with your whole heart, then you belong here. Today, I want to talk about something deeply personal and incredibly universal at the same time. I want to talk about your pet as your refuge. So, the Oxford Dictionary defines refuge as a condition of being safe or sheltered from pursuit, danger, or trouble. And when I read the definition, it immediately took me back to my own childhood because some of my earliest memories are built around this exact feeling. We had a dog when I was very young. I'm not even sure how old I was. But there are photos of me and Rufus when I was still in diapers, so whatever ages that could be. But Rufus was my first true sense of refuge. I remember that he would look both ways before crossing the street with me. And whenever I'd play outside our house, and Rufus was always there. He was my protector, my companion, just my quiet guardian. And I also have these very vivid memories of crying. Maybe I fell down or something, but Rufus would come up to me and lick my tears. And somehow he would just calm my whole body down. So from the very beginning of my life, animals were a place of safety for me. They were where I went without even realizing it when the world just felt like too much. Today we use words like the human-animal bond, but for this conversation today, I want to use the word refuge because for me, it really captures the full picture of that sacred world we share with our pets. And I think any animal lover understands this space, that quiet, wordless safety. That sense of being seen without being judged, that feeling of being held emotionally, even when no one is speaking. And as we get older, as life becomes more complicated, more demanding, more emotionally layered, the refuge our pets provide us becomes even more profound. You know, for many of us, our pets are the only ones we are completely honest with. We tell them the truths that we don't know how to say out loud to anybody else. I once had a client who shared something that really stayed with me. She told me that she had spent years pretending to be happy and carefree, even to her colleagues, to her partner, even to her therapist. She said the only place she was truly honest was with her cat and her dog. And she had gotten both of them at the same time, one is a kitten, one is a puppy. And with them, it was the only place she would be truthful and vulnerable. She would tell them what was, really going on in her life, all of her fears, all of her concerns. And then she would go back out into the world and put her mask back on. Her dog ended up passing away about 2 years before her cat. And she said the 2 years between those losses were the strangest mix of healing, growth, but also fear and deep grief. She was clinging to her refuge, her cat, while also trying to make sense and survive the loss of half of that private world of, safety and comfort when both cat and dog were together. She described it as holding on to the last safe place she had while everything inside her was changing. But by the time I began working with her, after her cat had also passed, she told me something really powerful. She said that only after we started working together and rebuilding what that refuge meant for her, did she finally begin to make real progress with her therapist and in her therapy. And I actually see this happen a lot when we as pet parents begin to understand the depth of the love and the trust we shared with our animals. And when we start to believe that this sense of refuge doesn't have to just disappear because they're no longer, physically here, something really beautiful can begin to unfold. We start to learn that refuge can expand, that safety can exist in new places, that the love we knew with our pets can literally become a bridge back to ourselves and sometimes even back to other people. I know this might sound a little rambly or of a whining story, but it's been in my heart these past few days. And because as adults, so many of us pour ourselves into our pets, sometimes even without realizing how much of our world just lives there. Like the other night, a friend of mine told me something that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. He said, honestly, the only person I really talk to is my dog. He told me that when he takes his dog out for walks at night, he talks to him about everything: his marriage, his worries about his kids, stress in his business. He said that those walks literally are the cornerstone of his mental health. And I said to him, well, that's because it's your refuge. And he paused and he just said, holy shit, that's exactly what it is. I never thought about it like that, but that's exactly what it is. You know, and so for many people, especially those who live alone or who don't have a big social circle, our pets aren't just companions, they're family, they're best friends, they're our emotional home. So when we say goodbye to them, it can feel like the only thing that was safe and stable in our lives has been torn away from us. In the pet love and the pet loss continuum that I use as a framework in my work, this really connects to stages 1 and 2, which are bonding and living fully. And when that bond is broken by loss, it can feel impossible to imagine ever feeling safe again. It can feel impossible to imagine ever finding refuge again. But I want you to hear this gently and clearly. That sense of refuge is not gone forever. It can change, it can grow, and it can be rebuilt. And it can still include your pet, just in a different way. But if you want to go deeper into this, or if you or someone you love is struggling to pick up the pieces of a broken heart after saying a final goodbye to a beloved animal or pet, you're welcome to explore my healing program, Forever in Our Hearts. You can visit my website at nextlevelpets.love to learn more. And of course, you can leave a question in the comments or send me a message directly. I'd be truly, honored to support you in any way that I can. Thank you so much.